I still need to contact my producer on that one and change out the freaking the name. It still says I can go pro, and you know what? Maybe we'll get him to do something like that. Hold on. Let me contact him now. Yo, Los, you gonna fix that shit yet? Okay, well, we're not gonna get any of that money just yet. No worries. Drop some primes and we might be able to afford a real editor, because that guy sucks. We gotta fire him eventually. But anyways, let's bring out our guest. My next guest is a caster, a designer. Nobody in the industry does it finer. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Bekybear!
Wow, I've never had a more beautiful intro in my life. That's fantastic.
Hey, you know, I'm glad, you know, it's good to put together a real fun experience for anyone who comes out here. Sometimes I really ramble and I just use very good. I think I've said it like 3 times in one intro, or incredibly awesome. I've done that multiple times in an intro, but this time I wrote it down. I put it in my notes. So I had to.
It was good. It showed.
Thank you. But enough about that. How are you? Thank you for coming on to the show. What's poppin'? How are you feeling tonight?
Oh my god, I'm doing so good. I'm really just kind of waiting for it to turn to be midnight so that I can play Legends of Arceus.
Oh yeah? Oh, you got that pre-ordered?
I do. Yes, of course.
Of course. Are you a physical copy person or a digital copy person?
I'm a digital copy person. If they're the same price, I don't see any reason why I would go to a store and get a physical copy, but I don't know. I as a collector of like many other things, that's just a place where I've omitted collecting certain things. And if people are into collecting like box sets of DVDs or into collecting like box sets for games, like all you totally love that. I've bought in vinyl copies of like CDs that bands have put out, and I've never owned a record player in my life. Sometimes you just want to like own a thing because it looks cool to display sometimes and feels cool. I don't know.
Where do you put them? Do you just like hang them up? What do you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I mean it's basically you're buying the album cover art at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What else do you collect, or is that your number one collection?
Oh no, that's definitely like way down on the list. It's probably a close race between Pikachu collectibles and Magic the Gathering cards. I collect
Pikachu.
a lot of both of those things.
See, we had to like crop it out a little bit, but no, we're gonna show. We do have a little bit of Pikachu memorabilia on the top right side, a little bit on the bottom right.
We are, yeah, this is also my very important. I actually own 2 of these, but one of them, the tail is broken. So this is one of my chunky boys.
What is that?
It's the VMAX Pikachu.
Okay.
Or Gigantamax. VMAX, Gigantamax. I don't know what actually like happens in the card game, at least. Like I own some here. This is my collection of specifically like just Pikachu cards. So this is like V Union, which is all the Pikachus together, and this one's cute because it's all the like famous Pikachus from across time and Pokemon's history. But then I just have like a binder full of all the Pikachus that I've ever collected in my life, and people have given me. But they're like only Pikachu. Actually, there's a Raichu in here, but that's because I have that one from when I was a kid, and then that one again. But yeah. I mostly started like my fascination with Pikachu and mostly started collecting specifically Detective Pikachu things because I loved that movie when it came out and it was absolutely just fantastic. So that's really where my collection for Pikachu started, and now it's just like once you like tell people that you love like Detective Pikachu, like people just like omit the detective part and then they're like, oh, I'll just like get you something like Pikachu themed. And now like my collection has just grown to like normal Pikachu things. So my entire like guest room / office is like all Pikachu themed.
Okay, well, I mean, is that a bad thing, or do you want people to just give you the Detective Pikachu? Is it at one point like, okay, I have enough?
No, I probably own everything that you could easily find that's Detective Pikachu themed. There's only like one thing, and there were only like 500 of this like life-size Detective Pikachu plush replica that were ever made. But they're like $500, and I haven't like totally convinced myself that I need it. But at the same time, it's probably just a matter of time before I actually buy it because the whole there's only been 500 ever made is like one of those stupid things in my brain that I hear that and I'm like, well, then I have to have it if there's only 500 in existence.
It's like an NFT, but it's fungible.
But exactly, it's fungible. I could sit there, I could cuddle it, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, and I can't save it. That's the big thing.
Exactly. You can't just go right click save, which is also, kind of important to me. But at the same time, I will want to show it off to everybody. I'm going to be like, look at my very cute life-size Detective Pikachu, and I'm going to talk like Ryan Reynolds every time I look at it.
Okay, so you have to get that and a cameo video from Ryan Reynolds. Those are the two things that you're missing for your collection. Okay. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's easily done. I'm sure we have someone in the studio who could work on that and get you some help with that. But so I always like to ask people the second that they come into the studio, it's how did you come up with your name? How did you come up with your gamer name, bekybear? Where is this coming from?
I actually had a friend in high school. I've pretty much always gone by Becky, even times when I tried to go by Rebecca. Nobody would ever call me Rebecca. Everyone just called me Becky anyway. So eventually I just gave up. I was like, fine, I'll just go by Becky. And then I had a friend in high school who would call me Becky Bear, and it just kind of stuck. And it's weird because every place where I want to be marketable, my name is Becky Bear because that's my actual name and it's easy to remember. And it's kind of close to my real name, Becky Bear, Becky Bell. Close to each other, easy to remember, so it's a nice way to keep myself being marketable. But in a lot of games where I don't want people to know my name, I usually actually go by Lovely.
Why'd you pick that name?
My dad used to call me that. And I had like a lot of other like really random lame names across the year. I feel like nobody ever like keeps a name, or very rarely people like will keep one name and stick with it for their entire lives. People usually like cycle through different names as they get older. And I've been around the block with games and across different platforms long enough now that I've had a bunch of different names. And I guess like the highlights are probably like Lazy Harp Seal was a name that I really liked and I had for a while. I used to spell my name Freak Show when I was in like my really scene phase, and I spelled it with like I's and a Q.
Where's the I at?
It's FRIIQXSH0W is how I would spell it. So that tells you all you need to know about me and my like MySpace scene phase, because that was the name that I went with.
So you had a MySpace?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. See, I was pretty late to the game. I started with Facebook and pretty much exclusively put all my time into the Mafia game, the Mafia Facebook game.
Oh, okay. I remember those. They were like Farmville.
Yeah, pretty much. But I was like, oh,
the harder version of
Farmville isn't cool. I'm playing Mafia Wars.
I mean, it is cooler than Farmville.
Hey, there's nothing cooler than the American farm workers bringing fruits and wheat to our tables and corn, especially. I'm a big corn fan.
Especially. Oh, okay. I'm more of a green onion person.
Just by itself, that's a condiment essentially.
Okay, yeah, no. It is kind of like a condiment. You're right, but I do think that like green onion will bring any dish literally up like 5 levels.
Okay. Are you much of a cook?
I used to not be, but like since the pandemic and since just like not being able to go out nearly as much, I started cooking a lot more for myself. So I'm like novice. I've like just started to learn. There's like a few dishes that I make like really well and I'm really excited to make, and I make like probably at least once every week. And then but like if you like asked me to like make something, like you showed me like a pile of ingredients and were like, what would you make with this? I would be like, I don't know. I don't have an original thought in my head as far as recipes go. So unless you give me something that like is a step-by-step instruction of how to make food, I don't know how to make it.
Yeah, I feel on that because for a long time, not really a long time, but like a year in my life, I was in survival mode because I just lived in an apartment with 2 other dudes, and then those 2 other dudes they just fucking disappeared. They stopped living in the apartment, but they were paying rent. They just stopped living there. So I exclusively
I guess I've heard of weirder things happen, but okay.
I ate chicken and rice and sometimes eggs every day every single day. That was the meal I made, and I got frozen. My girlfriend hates the fact that I did this, and I tried to bring it into the kitchen while we were together. No shot. I would have frozen collard greens, put it into the microwave, cook it, not season it. I did not season it at all because I was not there for the flavor. I was there to survive.
I mean, okay, so the rice and chicken, like, I make that for my dog when his stomach hurts.
You give
Like,
your dog people food?
I do. Well, yeah. Well, if it's just unseasoned chicken and rice, like that's good for him to eat, and it's like a really good thing to like neutralize a lot of stuff that's going on in dog stomachs if their stomach is upset.
Well, that just makes me feel like I've eaten dog food now.
You've been eating dog food for a long time. I mean, like one of my favorite things to make is a chicken and rice dish, but it's usually along with like some bell peppers, and it's like a sweet and sour sauce kind of deal. And it's like one of my favorite things to make, and of course I put loads of green onions on top of it too.
Because that ups
But
the level by 5.
by 5, exactly. You get it. See, easy to learn. And then a lot of the other things that I make are like fajitas. I love making fajitas. So that's basically the same thing. It's like chicken plus like a starch of some kind, and then you put it together with some seasoning. So like making chicken and rice for a long time is not bad. Like you're basically making the first step to like a bajillion other dishes that are across so many different ethnic groups. So you're on a good first step.
So really, I'm a very multicultural eater because I'm just step one
Exactly.
of everyone. I'm a
Yeah.
global eater. Is what
Exactly.
I'm. Oh my god. Well, that's.
The collard green part's that part's sad though. I can't justify that one to you at
What I
all.
would do is sometimes I'd put like onion powder. I'd just put that.
Of all the things you could pick to put with it, you did onion powder. I guess that's not that bad. Onion powder is kind of like garlic powder, but I would probably pick garlic over onion every single time.
I would sometimes I would do
preference.
both if I was feeling
Oh,
crazy.
okay. So you were trying to get a little fancy with it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Becky, I wasn't trying to impress everybody or anybody,
You were
not
just
even
trying to eat.
myself. I was alone in the apartment and just eating to survive. It
yeah.
sounds very sad saying it out loud, and now that I'm thinking more about it, it was.
Well, I mean, like you hear like all the people who are bodybuilders and they basically eat the same thing. That's like their way to like not eat a ton of calories but still consume a lot of protein and carbohydrates in some form. So they just do that. So you could have just said that you were having a bodybuilder's diet too.
Well, but I'm just a regular sized dude. That I have nothing to show for it if I got the bodybuilder body.
The camera takes off 20 pounds of muscle.
I mean, yeah. Okay.
That's my new lingo that I'm going with. It doesn't add 20 pounds. It takes off 20 pounds of muscle. So I'm actually jacked, you just can't tell.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. See, because people would be intimidated by a jacked commentator. They're like, I don't want them to be stronger and tell me what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, moving into that, you're an
Yeah.
esports commentator. How did you first step into that?
It was actually, I mean, I say that it was like kind of random, but in just out of high school, I was like playing a lot of League of Legends, and there was like a few small like local tournaments for League of Legends. I used to live in like San Jose area. And they would have like some small like college sized tournaments. And I did a little bit of commentating for some of them, just like kind of randomly. They were like, we just like are trying to put something together super last minute. I like knew the person who was doing it, and I was like, yeah, I can talk over video games. That sounds fine. And so I did that, but then like fast forward probably like 5 or plus years down the road, in like the beginning of 2020, I was at some event, and it was a Magic event. It was actually a dream hack, but I was there for Magic the Gathering. And somebody that I knew was like, hey, we have this like all female league that would later become a Magic the Gathering league for persons of marginalized genders. And they were like, we're looking for commentators because we only have like 2 right now, and we keep having like scheduling conflicts, and then we're like frantically trying to find people. So we're looking for some reliable people who will step into this commentator role. And they were like, we think that you talk really good. And I was like, I think I talk really good too. Put me on the mic. And that's kind of how it started, and it just like was something that I fell in love with doing and just started doing a lot more, and then finally got to do Magic commentary for places outside of just that one league. And then eventually was like, well, if I can like branch out to a bunch of different people hiring me. Like, who's to say that I can't get hired for a bunch of other games as well? So then I just like started to like sitting at like my desk, just me like watching pro games and like re-recording my casting over the pro games that were happening, and just like got those ready for my reel and just like recorded a bunch of those. I did this thing for League of Legends where I did what I called solo casting solo queue. Exhausting. First of all, any game that goes at a fast pace, trying to solo cast is nigh impossible. And I was like, the next 3 days after I did those sets was like, I can't breathe, I'm out of breath constantly, and my throat hurts. So I would not recommend for any game that goes at a fast pace. Magic the Gathering, I think I could do solo. It wouldn't be the most entertaining thing to watch, and it probably wouldn't be like the best for like a big production, but for a small production, usually like the slower paced games, one person could potentially be fine. But you really do need two people, and that kind of chemistry that comes along with it, the banter that comes along with it, making it entertaining as well as getting multiple people's point of views to go along with what is happening on screen. So slowly just went from like randomly, do you want to be a part of this thing? Sure, sounds great. And it seems like a cause that I'm very happy to be a part of. And to me being like, oh, well, I can just like do this. And if I like put enough work in on my own, surely like my reel will become good enough that people will actually hire me. And that did end up being the case. And now I do a bunch of Valorant stuff too.
That's awesome, but let's walk that one back a little bit. Tell me about solo casting solo queue. What is that?
It was just kind of I didn't like post them anywhere. It was just like what I would call it, and it's like in my reel right now. I had my friends who are like diamond level in League of Legends, just like I would download their VODs and I would cast through their entire solo queue games. And solo queue games are so much more all over the place than pro level games, and they usually take twice as long as a result, or end up just like randomly with immediate FFs or surrenders partway through. So like I started doing like 2 of them, and then there would be those like 15-minute surrenders, and I would be like, oh, well, I didn't even get to cast any exciting parts because like 2 people lost lane, and all of a sudden they were just like, we're done with this game. So it took kind of a while of like slowly going through a bunch of my friends' like diamond level games and like recording over them. I don't even think okay, we're gonna maybe hope that they're not watching this because I've never told them that I recorded over their games, but my friends Jared and Shab, if they are watching, I do have recordings over your games. It's how I got hired for like a lot of my League of Legends castings that I have done. And it was kind of just like a great way to be like, this is the energy that I can bring, and this is the energy that I can bring alone. So just think of what I can do with somebody else to build off of as well. And that was kind of my motivation for that. And it was just a nice way. I was really shy about asking other people, like, do you want to do test recordings with me or test castings with me? I didn't like know a ton of people. So I was like, I don't want to like ask them to do this because I don't know how comfortable I am. I don't know if I'm very good. So I'm just going to keep doing like as many like solo excuses as possible. And one of them was solo casting solo queue.
I definitely understand how you feel about not wanting to ask people to run it with you, because
It's hard.
I've seen so many people who are duos. They ask each other to do VOD reviews with each other.
Yeah.
I've never done that. I just don't want to ask anybody, but I know that's the next step. If you want to really level up your game when it comes to commentating, you gotta have somebody else walk through your VODs with you. I don't want to do it though, but I somehow am able to ask people if they want to come on the show. But I think it's because nobody's looking at what I've done. We're just doing shit at the moment, you know?
I did look at what you've done. I did watch your last 2. At least like watched probably the first like 15 minutes and then like skimmed through the end parts. I just wanted to like know like what the vibe was gonna be. Like I wanted to know if I could wear a t-shirt. I wanted to know if I could like make jokes back and forth with you. I was trying to figure out how serious this was gonna be. So I did actually watch some of your stuff back, but it was after accepting to do it with you. So I guess I have a little bit of both on that spectrum.
Okay, so what do you think? I mean, you're wearing a t-shirt, so that's...
I'm wearing a t-shirt. I was like, it does seem like it's casual enough that as long as I like look mostly nice, I can get away with wearing a t-shirt. If I'm just like sitting at my gaming computer, like I don't ever want to look like really nice a lot of the time, unless it is for like, it's different when I'm like getting paid to cast. If I'm like
Hmm.
getting paid for it, I'm like, all right, I'll put some real pants on. I won't wear sweatpants and I'll wear a button down shirt or something. But even then, like every once in a while, I'll just be like, as long as my shirt is like something that looks like kind of nice and I at least feel good and like I can project the confidence with whatever I'm wearing, I think that that's what matters more. And yeah, it's just at the end of the day, as long as you look like a step above presentable, you're pretty okay. And like I did my makeup, I curled my hair real cute. Like this isn't the most professional shirt in the world, but it also isn't like me wearing like some shirt with paint on it, which I own a bunch of those and I could have done.
Well, I mean, Becky, you are getting paid for this. You're getting paid in exposure.
Oh, if I had a dime for every time I heard that one, I guess I would have a lot of dimes and probably not a lot of exposure actually. So it's one of those things where, especially as an artist too, you always get told like, "Oh, it's for exposure." And I have done jobs both for casting and for art and for design that have been for exposure, but they're usually also like for friends. They're for
Hmm.
people that I trust. They're people that have done something for me in the past, and I'm like, "Sure, I'll get you back for this one." But very rarely does some random person reach out to me and be like, "Oh, yeah, I can pay you with like by sharing your page." I'm like, my page already has enough likes. I already have a good enough following of people who know me for me. I don't need people who know you and are coming to follow me as a result of you. I would rather people who know me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're being exposed to my mom, who's in the chat right now. Big shout out to my mom right now,
Hi,
who
mom.
is in the audience. But yeah, I mean, doing gigs when it comes to being free when it's for friends, of course, no problem. I will
Yeah.
gladly take little to no pay. In fact, my first ever gig was a Warzone tournament for my boy MSG Raj, who is in the chat right now. My first ever
Congrats to all
gig,
the friends.
I was incredibly hungover because
Oh no.
the night before I used to work at a bar, and I would go to that bar
Oh,
sometimes
okay. Yeah, yeah.
because they had like margaritas. The frozen margaritas, I only had two of them at 6 p.m. and I was blackout drunk. I was blackout drunk for, if we're talking hours, it was
Oh my.
18 hours I recovered, and that was about half an hour before the gig. I threw up in the
Oh
toilet, put on
no.
my nicest shirt, and then and then did the gig with him. And he said you could not tell. So I was like, oh, fuck, I guess I did a good job.
Well, that's good. I mean, as long as you can like make a recovery, that it's always hard when it's like you have two drinks and like all of a sudden it just like totally catches you off guard and you're like, I definitely didn't plan for this to happen, but all of a sudden I've done the same thing getting ready for a job, but I was like kind of sick, so I took a bunch of NyQuil or Dayquil, sorry. But then like even Dayquil still just like makes you super drowsy, so I like remember going back and like checking to make sure that I didn't accidentally take NyQuil. And then I was like, I somehow have to like muster up the energy to do this cast. And I just like chugged a bunch of Dayquil and feel absolutely horrible and just like exhausted. But made it through. I definitely came off as exhausted, at least like I could tell watching it back, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world. And I definitely try to at least be more conscious now of like if I'm not feeling well, being like, to whoever like the organizer is, being like, hey, I don't feel super well, there's totally a chance that like come tomorrow I'm gonna be totally sick. And I try to be better at communicating when I'm not feeling super great as a result of that one time.
Yeah, I have a feeling of, you got to take care of yourself, but
Yeah,
also
it's hard sometimes.
it's hard. One, it's hard, and two, to make that call where we're still in the lower level. We're fighting for our damn lives here for
Yeah.
at least to get out there, get good gigs, and I wouldn't want to make the risk or take the chance like, oh, if I don't do this, maybe someone who could help me out in the future would be watching and I'd miss out on that opportunity. So it's, do I really want to take care of myself, or do I want to take care of myself?
Yeah, no, that part is super difficult to choose between a lot of the time. And it was one of those things where it took also just like having one of my like first real jobs and like going to work one day and a boss being like, nobody wants you here if you're sick and you're not like feeling like yourself. Like everyone that is watching you is going to be able to tell, like everyone that you're working with is going to be able to tell, and you're just going to make so many more people feel worried or concerned that it's just not going to be worth it. And if you're not putting your best foot forward, if you're trying to get like that exposure and get seen and get a part of other things, if you're not going to be your best self, then people are going to see your not best version of yourself and they may not know anything else. So that's been a big part of my justification for trying to always put my best foot forward and always be in the best condition to be doing a lot of these shows as possible, is because on the off chance that like somebody does see that like off day where I chugged a bunch of Dayquil and then that ruins my shot at something else because they saw me and they were like, your energy isn't really what we're looking for. And it's like, well, that energy that you saw was me hopped up on a bunch of Dayquil, and that's just not something that I want to run into either. So it is hard to weigh those decisions, and it was something that took me quite a bit of time to notice and pick up on and convert and use into my life as possible as well.
Yeah, it's a tricky scenario, but hey, we figure it out. We figure it out. But I want to talk about how you figured out I see it as a very complex game, Magic the Gathering. I've seen my friend, my roommate, one of the guys who disappeared out of the apartment, he played Magic the Gathering a little bit, and I always saw the game. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So could you give me a brief rundown of how you got into it, and then after that, how the hell the game is played?
Okay, I'll do my best to do how the game is played, but it's so to explain how I learned how to play. I kind of learned in like two phases because I learned in 2013. I was in high school and we were like in our free period in high school, and my boyfriend at the time was playing with his cousin, and I was like, this game looks stupid, but also I'm mad that you're like paying attention to like whatever game you're playing and not hanging out with me. So of course then
Terrible.
like I absolutely horrible, of course. Like, how dare somebody have hobbies outside of paying attention to me, first of all. That's obviously sarcasm for those of you who are questioning it. Um, but at the time, I was like, well, if you're like so involved in this game, like that's something that I want to learn how to play too. So I like asked them to teach me. They like kind of taught me, and I started playing with them. And I played for like about a year with my boyfriend at the time and some friends that we had, and also his cousin. But then eventually, like once they all stopped playing, or like there was some times where like there was disagreements with how we were going to like play our games, and when it was just us, we like made up a bunch of our own rules as well, and we like had our own house rules for like how we wanted certain games to play out, yada yada yada. So eventually I stopped playing, and then fast forward like 3 years, I eventually came back to the game because I was playing Dungeons and Dragons with a group of friends, and one of the friends in that group was like, "Hey, you know how to play Magic, right? Like, I'm looking for somebody to like go and play Friday Night Magic with me." And I was like, "Yeah, I totally know how to play. Of course. Like, whatever, I'll go." Um I quickly found out that like the version of the game that I had learned, or like the parts of the game that I had retained, were like probably a fraction of what is actually involved in playing like high level, high skill Magic. And it was one of those things where I was like, I feel like I just like didn't learn anything, but also like from a learning perspective, it was probably for the best that I like learned all of those initial basics and then was able to be like brought into a different setting and then learned all of the like really complex parts of the game. So that's like how I got introduced into the game and really got started playing it. And then after like 2016, I'd like just started to play it like pretty competitively and be involved in it in big tournaments a lot. Um, as for how to play the game, the very cheesy slash like fun explanation to hear is that you are a planeswalker and you are trying to summon creatures and use spells to defeat your opponent, either by taking their life total down to 0 or getting rid of all of the spells in their library. Or sometimes there's certain cards or spells that do say that you just like auto win the game. Kind of if you know like Yu-Gi-Oh! The TV show Exodia, there's things like that in Magic as well. Um, so the basic premise of this is you'll draw cards, and a part of the cards that you draw are lands. Lands provide mana for you once per turn, and then you'll use those mana to be kind of like the force that allows you to cast spells. And you're basically just trying to outvalue your opponent with the spells that you cast to be able to do each one of those three things to win the game. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. There's a bunch of different styles of play. You can play aggressive decks, you can play combo strategies, you can play mid-range just value creature strategies, or you can play like no creatures and just play controlling things. And your idea is usually just to, it's called decking your opponent when you get them to have no cards left in their library. So there's a bunch of different styles of play. There's a bunch of different ways to win. And it kind of eventually comes down to you just play enough that you slowly figure out what style of play you like the best. And then a lot of people usually like have that just become a part of their Magic player identity. And they just end up playing a bunch of the same kind of decks across multiple formats or whatever one format they specifically want to play. And that's the other thing. There's a bunch of different formats in Magic the Gathering with a bunch of different rules. One of the most popular is EDH or Commander, and that is a 100-card deck. You have one legendary creature as your commander that you can cast at any time. It's not in your deck, it's in the command zone, and you can just play it from the command zone. And then every single of the 100 cards in your deck is a singleton. So you only have 100 different cards, essentially, more or less, which is very different from a lot of the more competitive styles of Magic the Gathering. You're allowed to have 4 copies of the same card in a 60-card deck. So that's a very big, quick rundown of Magic as a whole.
I'm gonna say I'll hold off on Magic for now.
Yeah.
Thank you though, Becky. Thank you for telling me about that. So you mentioned playing competitively a little bit earlier, and you actually once said that your greatest gamer achievement was placing 38th at GP Dallas Fort Worth in 2016.
Yeah.
Have you achieved something greater since then?
I wish I could say yes, but not really. I have won more money at smaller tournaments, believe it or not. Grand Prix are kind of weird. They're usually like around 1,000+ players, depending on the city and the size of the amount of people able to come. I've played in events as big as 1,000 to 2,000 players. Dallas Fort Worth was about 1,200 total players, and I got 38th in that one. So it's one of those things where if you just play like a smaller tournament, but everyone is paying that $60 or whatever to enter, you can earn a lot more money just because you didn't have to play as long, but everyone paid just as much and the amount to put on that tournament cost less. So you're having a lot more of that money go towards the prize pool, which is something that kind of carries over between a lot of different tournaments and a lot of different games. So it's been my like lifetime goal to qualify for what they call the Pro Tour. I have lost my games that would have qualified me for said Pro Tour 6 times now.
Lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7, hopefully one day. But the other unfortunate part is that the Pro Tour as it used to be kind of no longer exists. Magic the Gathering over the last 2 years has done a lot of things to kind of shift their competitive sphere into a different direction. And as a result, instead of having like the Pro Tour that it used to be in the same pro scene that it used to be, it's kind of moving more towards set championships. So every time they release a new set, they do a championship series, and there's a bunch of different ways to qualify for it. And I haven't ever done that either, but I've also fallen off playing and focused more on simply commentating, at least for like the last year or so. It's just mentally a lot easier to prepare for commentating than it is to prepare for a tournament. So I've liked having the lower stress commentary side, especially alongside like when I was playing competitively, I was in school and it was like I would finish my projects and then I would just like go play Magic for hours on end. And now that I like have a job and that's taking up a lot of my time, and then outside of my job I'm also still trying to keep up with doing a lot of my like own personal art projects and stuff, there's a lot less time. And now I'm also playing League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, Valorant, and also casting for those as well. So my time to like sit and prepare and dedicate a ton of time to playing in these big Magic tournaments has certainly dwindled, and my priorities have just shifted. So that is still probably like lifetime my best achievement. If I were to say the like I've lost my win in it for a Pro Tour 6 times, if I said that to a Magic player, usually the general response is, oh, because that's like usually when you talk to Magic players, they're very about statistics, very about numbers, and usually you say that like going into a game you do have like about a 50-50 chance. So the fact that I've lost 0 for 6 when I should have had a 50-50 chance in every single one of those. Like, my time has been so close so many times, and for one reason or another, it just like hasn't been there.
Well, I mean, now that you commentate it, you could still be involved with it. Has the
Yeah.
shift from general tour to a championship or set championship affected your aspirations of commentating at all? Has it shifted how you would try and become a commentator in the scene?
Yeah, I would say so a little bit. I definitely one of my aspirations is to cast a set championship. I think that that would be something that I would have a lot of fun with and I would enjoy quite a bit. I would love to just like cast as many big tournaments as possible. I just love the energy of big esports tournaments especially and would love to be a part of as many of those as possible. And now that Magic the Gathering has kind of made that shift into more of an esports sphere, I would love to be involved with as many of those as possible. And that has been kind of a big reason that I've shifted from preparation for tournaments and being a player into being a caster, is because I've decided that I would rather put a lot of my time and energy into a skill that carries over for a long time rather than putting a lot of time and energy into one deck for one tournament and then having that not matter in like 3 months.
Well, I mean, what you could do now that you would be commentating over the top decks is just learn from that and then just shit on everybody at locals.
I do kind of do that still, actually. Like, recently, over the last weekend, I got to cast, an alchemy tournament, which is a brand new format in Magic the Gathering. And then I did like take the two best decks that I thought were submitted from that tournament and have just like been playing them into Diamond in ranked on MTG Arena. So I am kind of doing exactly just that, and it's a nice way to like look at like, oh, this is a great way to like do research about like who's making plays that I don't think are optimal and what other play do I think would have been more optimal, and taking like basically somebody else's experience and applying it to my own experience that I'll use in certain games, which you can do in a lot of other games as well. Magic is just like kind of a little easier to be like, this is a bad thing. Don't do it. This player did it. It didn't work out for them. So I'm not going to do that. And that's something that people have done for a long time as well. Like a big part of studying for Magic tournaments is watching high level play tournaments and analyzing the plays and the like certain strategies and play patterns that people make in those games and being able to translate it into your own games personally.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of being a commentator. You see the best, and you get a stress free view at it, and you just get to enjoy it, right? Because being a commentator is way less stressful than playing. And
Oh, yeah.
now I'm not saying I'm a commentator because it's less stressful. It's because I'm not good at the games I commentate, so I do this instead.
I
But
would
I
say
mean,
that that's my justification in Valorant. I've with Magic specifically, like I've been at the higher echelon of play long enough that I think if I did dedicate the same amount of time, I could still be there. I just chose to shift priorities. But with Valorant especially, like I didn't start playing FPSs until after I was 25, and I use this excuse a lot, but after you're 25, the way that your brain wires your hand-eye coordination is just like weaker than when you're younger. So a lot of my justifications for being specifically bad at Valorant is like I started playing after my neuroplasticity started failing, so it's my body's fault, not
that's
not anything else.
and you throw them for a loop with a big word too.
Yeah, exactly. If you can tell me what neuroplasticity means in the chat, you've got my respect. There we go.
I imagine it's something to do with like how stretchy your fingers can be, and that's
Yeah, of course. Yep.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like I've got some issues too. I've got bad circulation in my hand. I'm slightly
Yeah.
cold in my room right now. If you asked me to jump into ranked, I'd get destroyed. There's no shot. My reflexes are gonna be off. The flicks are gonna be totally bad, and it's just a whole thing. I gotta put on a hoodie. It's
Yeah, you
screwed.
gotta stay warm.
But
It's a big
you've
deal.
also done a little bit of magic related work outside of the game itself and a little bit involved with your art as well. So what can you tell me about Think Twice?
Oh, Think Twice was a little bit of a zine that I was doing for a while. A zine is just a smaller version of a magazine. Usually it's completely self-published. So I was doing all of the printing for it, all of the assembly of all of them, and then just like selling them. And they were typically with articles from people in the game about strategy, along with art that I would create. And it was mostly just like a personal project that was like, I care a lot about magic. What's a way to continue to create art that is involved within the magic sphere, because my art style personally is not close to the hyper realistic fantasy art that goes onto Magic the Gathering cards. So for a long time, like, that was my dream, but I very quickly realized that, like, my art style just doesn't line up with what the average Magic set is having in it. So I'm just going to focus on doing my own thing and not worrying about, like, being a part of something that is changing my art style that I like doing. So instead, I'm just going to make my own thing with my own art style that I like doing, and that equated into Think Twice. So I had about like 3.5 issues of it. One of them was mostly digital as a result, and it was just like it was a fun way to like flex my creative thinking and also make it about Magic and be a way to publish some strategy articles, which Magic the Gathering players love strategy articles. There's nothing that they love more than being able to read other people's thought processes about the game. So it worked out very nicely.
I mean, that does sound pretty dope. Why'd you stop doing it?
A lot of it was just, it was a very big time sink. It was nice when I was like in art school. It was something that I could do a lot of the art projects for school and then end up putting those art pieces into the zine. And now that a lot of my artwork specifically is either for commission to make money, for me to have a place to live and eat, is just like, again, it's just a focus shift. I don't have a lot of the same free time that I used to be able to do all of that self-production myself, and I just have had to focus on work and different things. Maybe one day I'll be able to go back to it, but I just haven't been able to for the time being. And a lot of my free time now after work is spent being like, I want to play video games, or I want to practice like doing other things, as one does. Like, I think it's healthy to have a lot of different aspects and scopes of your life do some shifts as you get older.
Yeah, you got to taste everything to know what you like to do. But speaking of tasting different things, selling commissioned art to be able to eat, I want to specifically talk about, since you've moved to LA, you've been looking for something. Can you tell me about your search for the best bread pudding in LA?
Oh, you found that. Wow, okay. Actually, so far the best bread pudding that I've ever had has been in Memphis, Tennessee, and in Houston, Texas. The bread pudding in LA is just trying to be a little too bougie is the problem a lot of the time. They're trying to like add too many different flavors, but some of the best bread pudding that I ever had has been like some very southern traditional bread pudding. That's also another thing that like hasn't been like I actually, this is funny that you mention it, because I'm also about to start reviewing ice cream flavors. I have a lot of ice cream now for some reason. I don't know. It was like it's a big nostalgia thing. My family used to have a lot of ice cream growing up. When I started living on my own, I was like, I don't have the money to like buy ice cream for myself. I'm like focusing on just like buying food. So I like wasn't for a long time, and now that I have a job and I'm like doing okay, I'm starting to like treat myself a little bit more often. So I'm slowly moving back into, I'm gonna be reviving the bread pudding reviews as well as doing ice cream reviews to go along with it.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's good to see that that page won't be left alone, that something will be the spiritual successor for that. I'm happy. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I found that too. When I saw that, I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
It's my favorite dessert. I love that it's not like overly sweet. I like that it has sweet aspects to it. I think that it's like a weird texture that somehow is still good. So that's why I don't know. Bread pudding I just think is like the perfect dessert.
It's like a little bit squishy, a little bit hard, but like
yeah.
Also, like I'm not gonna continue explaining how I feel about it, because I was just about to go to the mouthfeel. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna do that. But okay. Anyways, so you're a multi-dimensional designer, and all art has value for the most part. So I want to create some art with you here today. But we're going to go head to head in a still life challenge. But the only problem here is we're working in MS Paint, and you only have a minute in a challenge I would like to call Paint It Whack. So I'm going to send you an image, and you have to do your best to recreate it in MS Paint. And I think it's going to be a good job. I'm going to hide my camera from you because I don't want you cheating off my image. So don't you dare think I'll let that happen. And
all right, you got it. I have MS Paint open. My screen just got so much wider, as you can tell, because now I have just a blank canvas in front of me.
That's good. That's good to know. Okay, so I'm sending you the picture now.
Okay. I'm so anxious. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and you're gonna time me.
And I'm gonna be painting it too. So we're going head to head on that one. I am gonna time you. I am going to play a little bit of music on my end.
Okay.
Just to figure this out. Let me pull up MS Paint myself.
Okay. I will wait to start until you are also ready.
I gotta adjust your camera a little bit. There we go. So you'll still have your face on here while I'm making this happen. I could have done a little bit better prep on this one, but you know what? I don't care.
It's okay. We're doing it live.
That's what's important. Okay. So now let's go.
Let's go. All right. Wow, MS Paint has gotten so much better since the last time that I used it. And I am drawing with my mouse, so like, forgive me, but also it's gonna be a masterpiece, so. Some of the people that I could see in chat have played a lot of Gartic Phone with me, so they know what I'm capable of.
Okay, you know what? We can go over a minute.
We can go over a minute? Okay, you wanna make it 2 minutes?
We can make it 2 minutes.
Okay. You're that worried?
No, because I'm not gonna have enough time.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, what have I done?
I gotta find the perfect red color. I'm only using the default colors too, so like whatever happens with the default colors happens. I'm not thinking about it too much.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not messing around with that. I don't care.
Okay.
I'm not bringing up the color palette. Okay.
Are you gonna let me know when there's like 30 seconds left?
I have not put a timer.
Oh my gosh, okay!
So, you know what? 20 seconds!
Oh, whoa, okay. I'm gonna have to use the bucket tool. I wasn't thinking I was gonna have to use the bucket, but we're gonna have to use the bucket. Okay.
I didn't close my lines! Damn it!
That's the worst feeling.
Alright. In 5,
Oh,
4, 3, 2, 1. Stop the clock! Stop the countdown! We've got it!
Ugh. All right, well, I didn't even get to your face, to be honest.
Oh no,
But...
not even my face.
Not even your face. A minute was not a lot of time.
To be honest, it was like 3. I did not count it at all.
All right, but I will send you what I got here. Oh, yours is beautiful.
Oh wow, yours is you're actually turned out very nicely. A very good torso, minimalist because legs are overrated.
It's called Gestalt theory. You're just trying to get the general overall shapes of everything, and that's what I'm rolling with. If my art teachers ever end up looking at this video, throwing that one back at them.
You got like the whole pose though.
Yeah.
I didn't even do your like right arm. I did like your left arm. I just did your left hand and was like, good enough.
I mean, I think you did a great job, Becky. I actually like that. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna save that for me.
Give me like 5 minutes and I can like probably at least give you a face, but
I feel bad. I should have prioritized doing your face instead.
Hey, well, did you see what I did for my face? I think it's okay. I think it's okay, Becky.
You can tell that I like bread because I focused on the bread.
I know. You even
Instead
did like
of
the
your
whole
face.
packaging right. It was good. Oh my god, that's fantastic. Becky, thank you so much
Of
for coming
course.
on to the show. Thank you for joining us here at the Late Night with Low studio. And I'd like to keep it going a little bit longer, but you know, you got to raid.
I've got Dungeons
you got
and Dragons.
D and D. Are you a DM or are you a player?
I am a DM for actually some of the people who are hanging out in chat. I have a group of gamer girl friends who I DM for them, but tonight, no, I am a player. I get to play a Merfolk cleric. Merfolk actually isn't in Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm a water genasi that is framed as a Merfolk.
That's a that's an MTG race, right?
A Merfolk is? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that one. Okay. Actually, no, we don't have more time. But anyways, thank you so much, Becky, for coming on to the show. And one final question: where can the people at home find you?
You can find me at bekybear, spelled without a C, pretty much everywhere that I want to be found. So if you want to find me, go ahead and just do an @bekybear. That's going to be like my Twitter, my Instagram. Technically, you can find my Facebook, but I don't randomly add people on Facebook. So also my website is going to be beckybell.com. Again, Becky spelled without a C. And yeah, all those beautiful links that Los just posted into the chat is how you'll be able to find me.
There's the website as well. Thank you so much, Becky Bear, for coming onto the show. That is going to be it for us here at the Late Night with Low studio this week, but be sure to tune in next week as we are going to be back in action. So thank you all to the people who came through to support Becky here today. I hope you enjoy your D&D session, but we're going to have to shove off and we're going to send it, obviously, you know the motherfucking vibes. We got to send it off to a friend of the show. This raid's going off to our friend One Hero Gaming. So everyone show some love, show some support to another member of the Late Night with Los alumni. But until then, take care and have a fantastic motherfucking night. Good night, y'all.